Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our live event. My name is John, and I will talk you through this presentation about Windows Virtual Desktop and why it is the best virtual Windows and Office experience delivered on Azure. So I think we are ready to go. So yeah, let me introduce myself first of all. So I'm John Papadakis. I'm a public cloud specialist, and I work for Arrow. So I've been following this technology since its launch 1 year ago, and I'm really excited to share more about how a partner can take advantage and seize this opportunity. So yeah, let me start. So Windows Virtual Desktop is a new set of technologies to deploy virtual desktops on Azure. However, there are many services and companies out there already offering cloud-based desktops. So is Windows Virtual Desktop something new or more of the same? Yeah, we've all seen those changes in our workplace and our work life well, to be honest, we mostly work from home right now. So even if it is a company device we use or a personal device, we have to ensure that employees can have access to data securely and also maintain data ownership and compliance. So the past few months, we have been living in a new reality, and this is called remote everything. So remote everything is the new normal, whether it involves our work or our private life, from shopping to selling to virtual events to remote working, remote learning. But enabling people and organizations to do more remotely has been one of the biggest challenges. So we have seen a huge demand in remote services that have been faced with a lot of IT challenges. Some of them have to do with VPN scalability constraints. Some of them have to do with bad actors, how to onboard and manage new and personal devices. But we can say for sure that just providing a laptop and a VPN connection to each user will not always suffice. At this point, I would like to tell you that we've created a small form just to get some feedback from you to understand what is your background and what is your understanding on Windows Virtual Desktop, RDS, and all virtualization technology. So Emma will put this form into the chat. Feel free to complete this form while we go through the webinar. So yeah, let's watch an overview video about Windows Virtual Desktop.
Today's digital transformation is driving every employee and every business to go further. So businesses are shifting to
successfully.
Today's digital transformation is driving every employee and every business to go further. So businesses are shifting to a desktop experience that empowers IT and enables employees to be more productive and more secure. But not all employees sit in an office, use only one device, or always work from secure locations. Windows Virtual Desktop, the best virtual Windows and Office experience delivered on Azure. Provide your users with the only full multi-session Windows 10 experience, virtualized in the cloud. Always up to date and available on any device. Optimized for Office 365 ProPlus, so you can deliver the most productive experience to your users. It works with current remote desktop services, so you can migrate your existing Windows Server desktops and apps, quickly virtualize, deploy, and scale in minutes with unified management in the Azure portal. Unlock mobility, productivity, and security with Windows Virtual Desktop.
That was fun. So Yeah, what is Windows Virtual Desktop? Windows Virtual Desktop is your desktop hosted in the cloud. So as we saw in the video, Windows Virtual Desktop is the only multi-session Windows 10 experience available currently. So user will benefit of an always up-to-date Windows 10 and Office 365 environment. So it's designed for all customers across all segments. Microsoft 365, as most of you already know, is the best way for customers to license these products and services necessary to deliver this experience. This also ensures the most productive and more secure computing experience and for users while lowering total cost of ownership and reducing complexity for IT teams. So what does Office 365 optimized for multi-session virtualization deployment means? So Windows Virtual Desktop delivers a consistent Windows 10 and Office 365 experience for users across local and virtual workspaces. In a traditional virtualized environment, apps such as Outlook and OneDrive Sync did not work as they would on a local machine. For example, the Outlook client would have to be downloaded. The Outlook client would have to download the entire cache each time from Exchange Online, which, as you can imagine, takes some time and makes for a poor user experience. On Windows Visual Desktop, we have been able to deliver a smoother user experience, so the user cannot really tell apart the experience on an actual machine that's running Windows and Office 365 from a virtualized machine. So how is this possible? So Windows Virtual Desktop, Microsoft has been able to leverage FSLogix technologies. So especially after the acquisition of FSLogix, Microsoft offered this technology for free. So the new FSLogix technology make the Office 365 much more performant in multi-user environment. And this could be Outlook, OneDrive, the Windows search. And also it will enable full access to OneDrive and the ability to run Outlook in cache modes, which dramatically speeds up logon and application launch times. So virtualization. One huge benefit of Windows Virtual Desktop is virtualization. Virtualization helps companies address specific business needs. And I would say the most important business need at the moment is security and regulation. So a virtualized environment can provide secure access to data and organizational resources to your employees, but also your contractors or partners you may be using. A virtualized environment can ensure compliance with specific industry regulations, such as FSI, healthcare, and government. So for customers, one common challenge, especially with current lockdowns and waves of lockdowns, is scaling up and down. So we'll see it's typical for a customer to onboard, to offboard users when they are furloughed and onboard them back on a massive scale when the furlough is over. So the virtualization can help scale up and down resources fast and as you need them. Specific employee needs. So when onboarding, when bringing on new customers, or when sending people to work from home, people will be using their own devices, their own mobiles. So we have to enable them to have the same experience and, of course, make sure that the data is kept inside the company. It's there's no leak of data and there are no security risks. So this could be call centers, this could be branch workers, this could be field workers or drivers. And last but not least, one size does not fit all. So when we talk about personalization and special workloads, we have different teams inside the customer. So customers' employees would expect their tools to be personalized and not just one fit for all. So for example, you will have your designers, you'll have the engineering team that will need specific machines with GPUs and a lot of CPU and RAM, so they can run AutoCAD, Illustrator, or Photoshop, or any other engineering software. And then you will have HR or finance, that maybe they have some legacy apps that could be 10, 20 years old, and they want to be able to work on them, continue to work on them on a virtualized environment. And maybe you will have some field workers or drivers that only need just one app or two, not even a whole desktop. So a huge benefit of Windows Virtual Desktop, and this is because, of course, it's born in the cloud, is that you can deploy and scale in minutes. So by using the Azure portal and all of the automation that comes with it, you can really deploy, not in minutes, of course, to be fair, to be honest, you can deploy in a couple of hours, you can deploy over a weekend, and always, make sure to come back and optimize and monitor. But it's true that Windows Virtual Desktop is available in 54 Azure regions and 140 countries. And this is extremely important for Windows Virtual Desktop because you can have your workloads closer to where your employees, the employees of the customer are, so they won't have any latency issues. Of course, also compliance issues. It's you can easily manage it through the Azure portal. There's especially with the spring release, there are ARM templates you can leverage. One big part of Windows Virtual Desktop is, of course, Azure's built-in security and compliance with many SKUs, with Windows Defender, Azure Defender, and Azure Bastion, and many more. And also very important to mention here is that Windows Virtual Desktop seamlessly integrates with Citrix workspaces and Citrix virtual apps on desktops. So if you have a Citrix farm, if you leverage Citrix Cloud, you can use your familiar Citrix tools and manage all your infrastructure, whether it's on premises or on the cloud. And if you need to scale up on the cloud, you can just do that on Windows Virtual Desktop and with a Citrix managed layer. So why is Windows Virtual Desktop the best virtual desktop experience as we advertise? So first of all, with Windows Virtual Desktop, employees can securely connect the desktop anywhere with a secure internet access, and they can they don't have any security challenges with identity and access management. And this is because there are built-in tools in Azure to identify the user. The second bullet is, I think it's really important. It's really important to understand that any remote desktop, any virtualized desktop is about one thing. And what is the one thing? Is enabling Windows. So this is the operating system that all remote desktops across the board are there for. So Microsoft, who owns that operating system, has created a specific version of it, the multi-session Windows 10 version, so they can deliver Windows Virtual Desktop. So traditional virtual desktop solutions have some functional limitations and application compatibility challenges. If you're one of partners that have been working with Citrix, with RDS, with VMware, and you found some compatibility challenges, some line of business applications that you cannot include, please share on the Q&A. I would like to hear more feedback on this subject. And we can always follow up after this event. So yeah, coming back to the multi-session version. So the special multi-session version that Microsoft created for Windows Virtual Desktop allows users to have a consistent end user experience, as I said before, regardless if they're on their actual machine or on a virtualized desktop. And I think that's the most important part here. So as we said before, personalization is easy to set up through the Azure portal. We will go through some recommended VM sizes later. And I think another important aspect to think about is pricing. So Windows Virtual Desktop comes, the management layer, the management plane comes free with the M365 licensing. So if we can compare it to other vendors that you have to pay licensing on top of the RDS, this is something offered by Microsoft to customers for free. You can always use a management plane, and if it makes sense, if you need the added functionality, I would definitely recommend using Citrix or VMware or even NetApp's Virtual Desktop service. That's native Windows Virtual Desktop. But it's important to understand that the basic management plane comes with the licensing. Also, really important, if you have customers that have existing RDS desktops, that could be either on-prem or on the cloud, it really makes sense to migrate to Windows Virtual Desktop. It can be slightly cheaper because you don't have to pay the RDS license, but also it makes sense because all the infrastructure is provided as a platform as a service, and you don't have to manage it as a partner, and this reduces the actual overhead. There is support for RDS Windows Server 2012 and newer. So far we've seen what is Windows Virtual Desktop, what are the benefits, and I highlighted some of the key points we need to understand. So the first question that comes in mind to many partners is, okay, what's the difference between RDS and Windows Virtual Desktop? So let's see a couple of things here that are interesting. So first of all, this is a very basic architecture of an RDS client, and this could be either on-prem or on Azure. From the licensing side, it's far more complex. So to license this RDS, you need to set up a Windows Server license, an RDS CAL license per user, an Office ProPlus license with shared activation, and Exchange Online. So if you're deploying this in Azure, then you will need to have software assurance or buy the software on CSP. So compared to Windows Virtual Desktop, that is just the M365 license you need, it's is more complicated, and also you have more to license. Also, another important aspect to think about is that the RDS environment, such as the broker and the load balancer and all the management tools, come as a platform as a service. So you don't have to actually manage the VMs that they sit on and manage the roles and patch them and update them. This responsibility will go directly to Microsoft. Another thing, it's a bit more technical, but I think it makes sense to mention it here, is that The RDS technology uses the profile management technology called UPD, so it's a user profile disk. This has its limitation, which does not include OneDrive, sync, files on demand, and indexing for Outlook. So some apps like Outlook, Word, will need a more persistent storage, which means that you need 1 VM per person or per user, so that you can that user can have the local running experience. This means you need more computer resources to account for individual VMs, which means even more cost. Okay, so let's see an example and see how this works. So traditional public cloud services offer VDI solution that map single users to a single VM. As you can see on the very nice slide, there is a lot of white space. So there is a lot of resources that aren't utilized by the user. So this solution may be appropriate for some of your users, some of the customers' users, but it's always a mix of a multi-user and a single user host pools environment, and also, of course, it has to do with reducing cost. So let's see if we were to provision a VM for each user. As I said before, there will be a lot of white space, and we'll be underutilizing the resources we're paying for. So if we take a real world scenario that we have 24 users, and each one use 2 virtual CPUs and 4 GB of RAM, we will have a total of 48 virtual CPUs and 96 GB of RAM to pay for. You can see also on the white space that there is a lot of underutilized resources that we are actually paying for. So if we switch to a multi-session environment and we use Windows 10 multi-session, we can reduce the resources needed from 48 CPUs and 96 GB of RAM all the way down to 8 CPUs and 32 GB of RAM, and still provide a great user experience. So we have provisioned on this slide about a 20% buffer, but you can see the utilization is much more efficient. So let's take a look on a very high level architecture. So what's important here is to see what is managed by Microsoft and what is managed by the partner. So the partner will manage the subscription. So Windows M365, add, remove users, add apps, and the infrastructure of the broker, the gateway, the diagnostics, the load balancer will all be managed by Microsoft. And also, because it is in Azure, Microsoft will manage the infrastructure for compute, storage, and networking. We will go through on a slide later to see how this works in a bit more detail. So as I said before, the licensing is extremely simple. If your customer has an M365, E3, E5, or a Windows 10 enterprise license, they're good to go. If they want to use the server, a Windows Virtual Desktop server client, if they already have an RDS CAL license, with software assurance, they can leverage the license and not pay for licensing. So it's very straightforward. FS Logic, I think we touched on this topic, but just to make a few notes here. So FS Logic Technologies is part of the technologies that Windows Virtual Desktop allows us to have this really good Office 365 experience that is optimized. We can use OneDrive sync. We can log on very fast to our Outlook, to our apps, and this is because of the profile container technology. So it will the profile container technology will decouple the app from the profile and the operating system, so it will be very quick. Every app will not load to the operating system and the profile, but will be already preloaded. So another very important feature, and this comes into public preview and general availability and getting used more and more, is app masking. So instead of creating a lot of gold images, you can minimize the gold images you need and mask the apps that you don't want some users to see and use. And also Java redirection is important. It's not the best benefit of FSLogix, but it can let you redirect multiple installed versions of Java, mapping which versions are used by which apps or websites. So now that we discussed about what Windows Virtual Desktop is, what are the benefits and what are the difference with RDS, let's discuss, I think, the most important part, the most, let's say, difficult to understand part from the partner perspective, and it's how to make money out of it, how to make a business out of it, how to create a simple, repeatable business that can drive growth and customer acquisition. So there are 5 important steps that a partner needs to take to have a successful pricing of Windows Virtual Desktop. First of all is understand what are the different components of included in Azure Pricing. A lot of partners interested in Windows Virtual Desktop will come from an M365 and Office 365 background, will be dealing with customers on remote learning, remote working, and Azure will need some new skills, especially on the pricing side, to understand how to resell it, because it's not just a simple SKU. Then second step is to understand the customer requirements for Windows Virtual Desktop. Then apply eligible discounts and incentives. We will go through them on another slide. Use the tools available to estimate Windows Virtual Desktop costs using the configurator. And then finally put everything together, everything we learned, and create packaged offering for your customers. So what are the pricing issues? What are the feedback we hear from partners? That Azure consumption model is very good because you only pay as you go. You only pay for what you use. That's really good, but it's very difficult to understand and resell it and reassure the customer that this is what they're going to pay. So also partner discounts can come from different places, and they're not built in the pricing tools. And doing an estimation of what the customer will need, especially on a cloud workload, it can be tricky. And to be honest, sometimes customers do not know what the utilization of resources by their users will be or are at the moment. From the customer side, customers want a specific price. Want a per price per user per month. Some customers are afraid that they will consume their whole budget in a month on the cloud because it's not something they can easily control. And to be honest, sometimes this has happened. This is a reality. If a customer or partner is not very aware of how to set budget, of how the cloud economics work, sometimes you can see that the budget goes very quickly. And another customer hesitation, of course, is that customers do not want to consider what is the cost impact of IT activities. So they know there's an overhead involved in managing infrastructure, but they don't want to take it into consideration when it comes to cloud solutions. So let's see those steps, and let's see what is important for the partner to really understand. So there are three objectives that lead to a successful Windows Virtual Desktop pricing. I think the first, and as discussed before, is to understand what are we paying for in Azure. Second is take into consideration all discounts and incentives that you get from Microsoft through CSP and put them in place. And third is see how, after doing maybe a proof of concept or a demo, you can predict and estimate what the cost is, the fixed cost is, the variable cost is for you, so you can make sure that you have a margin on top and you can offer a fixed price to the customer. So first of all, components of Azure pricing. There are three main components to infrastructure on Azure and that you will be paying for. So first of all is compute. Windows Virtual Desktop requires several different servers, or as we call them, VMs. And you will also need to configure sets of VMware session host pools. So what are you charged for? First of all, the compute capacity, and you're billed by per second. Other primary variables are what is the size of the CPU, what's the size of the RAM, what is the operating system that you're running on. Other variables could be Azure region and tier. Now, storage. With Windows Virtual Desktop, of course, user data is stored in Azure, and you have to choose the type of storage you want to use. There are recommendations, of course, and I will go through them in the following slide. But also you need to choose what redundancy you need for your project. So how are you charged for? Per gigabyte per month. Primary variables is type, is it a hard disk, is it solid state? Redundancy, access tier, and performance tier. And other variables, of course, are region, storage, count type. And last, it's understandable that you will need to have some networking in place, and this is for your virtual network to connect to your user profiles. And you may also need to connect to extend this Windows Virtual Desktop VNet to your own premises infrastructure. What you're only charged for outbound data transfer. If you have a dedicated network to your own premises, you will also be charged for that. Primary variables are region, type, and tier. I think this slide explains more the Windows Virtual Desktop architecture. I think it's really simple. So first of all, you need a VM or several VMs for your host pools that can be either pooled users, so a multi-session VM, a lot of users on one VM. It could be personal desktops, so you have one user per VM. Then you need an Azure Active Directory server where you can replicate your domain controller either by AD Connect or other services, and you have to set it up on a VM. Or if you don't want to do that, you can use Azure Active Directory domain services. That's a managed VM for Azure AD. Then you need another VM for FSLogic user profile management and networking and storage, of course, as discussed. It's important to think about the option of backup and disaster recovery, and also think the cost to connect to your existing environment. So how to scope out the custom requirements of existing and what is the existing architecture? So there are two main variables. I would say the first one is the number of users. How many users will the customer need to set up on a virtual desktop? And then what are the type of users? So are they light, medium office workers, heavy users, or with specific GPU needs? Also, with Windows Virtual Desktop, you have to take into consideration how are you going to connect with your domain controllers, customers' domain controllers. You have to duplicate them on Active Directory, Azure Active Directory, and also take into consideration what the networking requirements will be. So this is a slide with a guidance on resources needed, VM host pools. So this is just a guidance. I would always recommend doing monitor and optimization to understand what's best for the workloads and what the users are actually using. So the four types are light user, that's usually database entry application, call centers, maybe drivers that just need one app. Medium users, that is your typical office worker that is using the office stack and some light applications. And heavy, so some more intensive workloads, a bit of development and engineering, so some medium applications. The last one is heavy graphics. So if you need your Photoshop, your 3D CAD, any other development, machine learning, you will need GPUs. So what is common across the three first categories is that Microsoft recommends the same VM. The difference is that for light users, one VM can handle up to 6 users simultaneously. For a medium, it's 4, and for heavy, it's 3. And also the network egress is scaling up according, of course, to the usage. For heavy graphics, Microsoft recommends the NVIDIA GPU VM, and it's only 1 user per virtual CPU. Sorry, if I did make a mistake before, it's 1 user per virtual CPU, not per VM. Sorry. Now that we understand what are the components of pricing, and again, if you have any questions, we can always follow up with a call one-to-one to do a deep dive on pricing and see how we can use the tools. So discounts and incentives. As a Microsoft CSP reseller, you receive a margin discount from Arrow, and you should take this into consideration to understand what is your cost. Reserve instances where you will have a VM that will be running 24/7. You can take advantage and also make sure that this VM will be running for a year or 3 years. You could then take advantage of reserve instances and greatly reduce the cost of compute. If the customer has some software, some Windows Server license with software assurance, you could take this, you can use them on Windows Virtual Desktop and do not pay for the license. And this is called Azure Hybrid Benefit. And most importantly, something that a lot of partners do not take into consideration is the rebates, the incentives you get directly from Microsoft. So this is not a discount, but this is money, cash you will get from Microsoft 45 days after the build month. So this can also be, and because this is an Azure workload, this would be very wise to take it into consideration moving forwards. So how can we estimate, we've seen what are the components, but how can we estimate what the customer is asking us? There are three ways to do it. The first is the pricing calculator. I've included the question on the poll that's in the chat. If you find the pricing calculator easy to use, I have mixed replies for many partners I've talked with. It's not the best tool we can use. It's straightforward, but it's not made for Windows Virtual Desktop. So there is a solution configurator tool. It's virtually an Excel file that you can use it. There is a simple version and a comprehensive version. The comprehensive version, you can add your, if you have any management software or any specific licensing cost, you can add it to the comprehensive version of the solution configurator. As I mentioned before, there is the option of reserve instances. So if you have, so there is a balance here. So there is on one side the reserve instances, on the other automate shutdown. So on some of the partner cases, customer cases I've seen, usually there are many users. There will be one or many large VMs for users to work during office hours. And because there are 10-20% of users that will work out of office hours and weekends, we will create a smaller VM for those users. So the large VMs that are on 9 to 5, they can be made to shut down, so they can start before the beginning of the day and shut down after the end of the day. And you can have the smaller VM on reserve instances that will be 24/7. So the most important part, what will a desktop as a service offering look like? So a desktop as a service offering will allow you to create a value-add service where the product, the end product, will be more valuable than the sum of its parts. So the customer will know that they will have a simple per user, per month price. So as a partner, as a Microsoft partner, you can provide much more than simple licensing or a deployment of a Windows Virtual Desktop environment. You can offer managed services, you can offer professional services, you can offer support. So how can you bundle this? You can bundle Windows Virtual Desktop with M365 and infrastructure management. So any servers on-prem that need to go to the cloud, you can manage this. And also you can add Arrow premium support for Microsoft CSP. And there is an option there is an SKU for premium and customer support. So Arrow will directly support your end customer. Also, I've added the question on the poll on the questionnaire. If you are aware that this option exists, just let me know. And the most important thing from a customer perspective is a fixed price. The customer wants to know that this solution will be provided with, for example, £40 per user per month. So let's see what this looks like. So on this representative graphic, we can see, first of all, the cost, the variable cost that it will cost the partner to create the solution. So we've applied everything we've learned so far. We've applied incentives and discounts, and we've created our variable cost. Then on the top, we can see what are the prices if the customer goes to the pricing calculator and calculates the solution. And then you can offer a customer price. It's a line in the middle that is a fixed price for each month. And then we'll make sure that you'll have a good margin and also that the customer will benefit from a better price than the catalog. So it's very important to give customers choice. It's not just one Windows Virtual Desktop price per user. There are a lot of, there should be some few standard packages. For example, up to 100 users, medium users, up to 500 medium users, added SKUs, 10 heavy users, for example, Microsoft Defender, Azure Bastion, Secure Score as a service, Compliance Score as a service, and there are more and more to add as a managed service on top of Windows Virtual Desktop. It's very important to always monitor usage, use local analytics, use third-party tools, use whatever you like to monitor these VMs and see the usage, their health, and optimize them. When you optimize them, you will reduce cost, and this can work towards your margin. If you see that the optimization will go the other way around, you will need, to increase the size of the VMs, increase the resources. You can include this and always include provisions for out of scope work. So if there are changes to be made in host pools requirements due to new users, or you need increased capacity, if there is a integration with line of business servers, if there's additional software requirements, if you want to upsell something to the customer, provision it on as out of scope work. There are three main sales scenarios that Windows Virtual Desktop present a huge opportunity. The first one is replace and migrate on-prem virtual desktop deployments, especially RDS clients, new virtualizations, and another important thing I didn't mention so far is that with Windows Virtual Desktop, you will get the free support for Windows 7. So if you have a customer that's still on Windows 7 and do not want to pay the extra support, that's a lot of money per user, you can leverage Windows Virtual Desktop, but it's only on a single session, not multi-session. I will send out, following the webinar, some tools you can use. First of all, it will be this presentation. Then you will have a customer targeting toolkit that will have customer stories and all steps, all the guides step by step, how to target customers. A Windows Virtual Desktop pricing deep dive, and of course, very important, there is funding available up to $5,000 Azure credit for CSP partners, for a Windows Virtual Desktop proof of concept for eligible CSP partners. So feel free to reach out to me. This is my email, and we can discuss about funding. We can discuss about a deep dive on pricing, and if you still have a lot of questions or any questions, feel free to reach out. We can put you through our Microsoft certified and extremely experienced cloud solution architects. That's from my side. Emma, do we have any questions?
Yeah, sure. So we've had a couple of questions that we've answered along the way. I've got a few stacked up here which we'll go through. But whilst we're doing this, if anyone has any more questions, just pop them into the Q&A section, and we will try and get to as many as we possibly can. So the first one is, how secure is Windows Virtual Desktop, and are there added recommended tools to use?
Yes, of course. I think it's one of the most important aspects of Windows Virtual Desktop security, and this is because it integrates all Azure services. So you have all the security from the Azure cloud, and I will go through what this could look like. Another very important thing I think I didn't mention is that Windows Virtual Desktop has a built-in remote gateway functionality that it's called reverse connect. So there's no verification of user from the internet. It's done internally on Azure, so that's a big plus, and that comes straight out of the box. I think it's called the reverse proxy security feature. So from a security perspective, very important, because it's on the cloud. You don't have to worry about all the infrastructure, the virtualization layer, the physical host, network, and data center. And you can run so many security SKUs. So it could be Azure MFA, conditional access, operating system hardening, antivirus, defender, data encryption, policies, many more. I hope this answered the question.
Great, thank you. The next question, actually, I think is probably best suited for Sam if he's on. It's, can Arrow support Windows Virtual Desktop and Citrix deployments, or Windows Virtual Desktop and VMware deployments?
Yeah, hi Emma, I'm on. Thank you. No problem at all. Yeah, we can absolutely support that. In fact, actually, we're currently working on our demo environment to ensure that it's got WVD capabilities alongside our Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktop and VMware Horizon environment, which also, funnily enough, has NVIDIA in it as well. So yes, we can help support. We can also help demo. So Emma, if you'd be kind enough to share my details at the end of this, anybody who's interested in Citrix, VMware and WVD deployments, please do get in touch, and myself and John can help you with that.
Perfect, thank you.
Thanks, Emma.
Another one, John, for you. Why should I go with Windows Virtual Desktop versus creating an RDS session, and what is the cost difference?
Yeah, I think we went through the what's the difference between RDS and Windows Virtual Desktop, but to be honest, the cost difference is minimal. So Windows Virtual Desktop is slightly cheaper. However, because RDS is an older technology and it's replaced by Windows Virtual Desktop, it will make sense to use Windows Virtual Desktop. Also, very important is that you don't have to manage all your backend components or the infrastructure. This is provided by as a platform, as a service offering by Microsoft. So I think, yeah, it makes sense to go with Windows Virtual Desktop. Not a huge difference in cost, but it really makes sense.
Thank you. Let's look, another one. From a true VDI experience, how does the new Windows Virtual Desktop compare to its competitors?
Oh, that's a good question. We can take a whole webinar just to go through the differences, but in essence, the Citrix VMware workspaces all have an underlying protocol stack that's different than Windows Virtual Desktop. So Windows Virtual Desktop has RDS, and in the past, Citrix would have been considered superior and still is at specific functionality. But nowadays, I think most of the workloads, more than 90%, function more than okay with the RDS protocol. So Windows Virtual Desktop is fine. From a management perspective, you have a lot more functionality from Citrix or VMware, but you have to pay for it. If you need it, that's fine. That's really good. It's I think the sweet spot is if you have a customer with 1,000 users or more. Windows Virtual Desktop has integration with Azure Active Directory, Office 365, and Windows Virtual Desktop has the Windows 10 multi-session experience. You can also leverage this on Citrix Cloud and VMware Cloud, the Horizon Cloud. I think it's up to the customer, up to each case to see, do we need the extra functionality? Do we need to pay for extra licensing? Then, just pick and choose.
Great, thank you. I think we've probably got time for one more question. So I'm going to go with this one. Is Windows Virtual Desktop cheaper than Citrix?
Yes. Well, it is. As I mentioned before, Citrix depends. Okay, if it's Citrix on the cloud, you will pay the licensing, you will pay your own licensing, and it makes sense to be more expensive because it's a management layer on top, adds a lot of more functionality around diagnostics, around Teams optimization, and many more other things. So it makes sense to be more expensive. If you need something that you can manage, if you need something with less users, you don't need the added functionality, Windows Virtual Desktop will be fine.
Okay, great. That's probably all we've got time for questions. Like John said, he will be reaching out and sharing the deck. So if you do have any other questions that come up, you can then cover those off after that.
And we're right on time, I think.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, well, I will end the webinar there.
Yep. Thank you all so much. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.